Call the January 12, 2022 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board to order. Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Present.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera?
Present.
Mr. Dodson?
Present.
Mr. Mastriani?
Present.
And Mrs. Collins?
Present.
5 present.
A quorum is present. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Miller-Herrera, would you lead us?
I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 12th Town Board meeting. We've been in office just a little over a week, and I can tell you it's been busy. We've held a department head meeting to introduce ourselves and to listen to any concerns they may have. We're building relationships with town employees to ensure clear communication. We are posting updates on our town website and Facebook pages. We are canvassing potential candidates for the controller position and continue to research the history of the Sewer 2 Extension 1 building. I would like to acknowledge the Highway, Parks, and all 3 water departments for their help during the recent snow and ice storm. I know that they put in many hours to keep us safe. It has come to my attention that a FOIL has been issued and board members are interested in a civil rights case that I was involved in 2011. I would like to publicly explain this issue. In the spring of 2011, I had health issues that resulted in my doctor removing me from work on an FMLA, that's a Family Medical Leave Act. While I was out, a Rotterdam police officer came to my door and delivered a letter. The letter stated that if I did not return to work the following Monday, I would be fired. I was not well enough to return. At that point, I contacted the New York State Department of Human Rights. I filled out their application and brought it to them. They then set up a meeting with me and the town to discuss the matter. I showed up, but no representative from the town did. I was informed that I could either seek my own legal counsel or the state would provide it. I chose to have the state represent me. A lawyer from the state interviewed me and then said a conference call would be set up before the trial with the town attorney. The judge appointed to the case, myself, the state of... Okay, wait a second. A lawyer from the state interviewed me and then said a conference call would be set up before the trial with the town attorney, the judge appointed to the case, myself, and the state-appointed attorney. At that meeting, the judge stated that my civil rights had been broken. She strongly suggested that the town reach an agreement with me before it went to trial. She also stated that in the matter of a civil rights violation, the town would be responsible for state and federal penalties, and if I remember correctly, the court could award up to $25,000 for the state and $45,000 for the federal violation. The town attorney contacted me and I asked for $10,000, which was the amount of lost income. I believe she countered with $5,000, I don't remember, and we settled for $7,500. I do have a copy of the resolution with me. It is Resolution 12712. If anyone would like a copy, I will make it available tonight. Okay? Thank you. All right. We're going to, without objection, we will take Resolution 6022. We are having 2 new police officers join our force, and I'm sure Chief Brown would like to swear them in.
Yes.
Ms. Marco has to read it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I just want the chief.
Do we
You
have
want
to
to
make
grab
a
it?
motion?
Okay.
No problem. Okay, Ms. Marco, would you read Resolution 6022?
Sure.
Resolution to appoint police officers.
Yeah, this is a resolution to appoint police officers.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Christo, second by Councilmember Dodson. Anything on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion passed.
I'd like to thank the board for appointing these 2 officers tonight. Both of these officers are lifelong residents of the town. and both have gone through an extensive and rigorous background investigation, which included agility testing, polygraph testing, psychological exams, as well as an interview process through the police department panel. If I could, I would just like to call you guys one by one. Noah, Keith, if you could step up, please. I'm just going to read the oath of office to the newly appointed officer. I state your name.
I, Noah Anthony Keith,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
the office of
the office of
police officer
police officer
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations and welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The next appointee is Austin McCrum. If I can just have him step up. Raise your right hand, put your left hand on the Bible, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Austin McCrum,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
the office of
the office of
police officer
police officer
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks again.
Congratulations.
Do I have a motion for this board to go into executive session to discuss employment history of employee 621?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Christo. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes, to enter executive session.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes to go into executive session.
Please note the time.
7:14.
Good job. It's always so cold in here. It doesn't matter. We should just have heated blankets.
Like 3 o'clock, he said we better turn the heat on.
Yeah. Worse than the
We made a motion to return from executive session unanimously and return to 7:39.
I'll make that motion.
No, we made the motion. There. We'll move to privilege of the floor. Ms. Marco, is there anyone who wishes to speak? And please remember to keep your comments to 4 minutes.
Okay, did you want to read that letter first, or did you want the other people to speak first?
I'd rather have the people who feel
Okay.
first, please.
Bob Godlewski?
Say it loud, say it proud.
Say what you gotta say and sit down. I have to take this mask down because my glasses steam up and I can't read.
And you got to talk closer.
Yeah, I normally don't do that and my wife will kill me, but it's steam up and I can't read. First of all, before I get
Can everyone hear
started,
Bob?
all right, before I get started, everything the supervisor said about that civil rights suit is absolutely correct. I was on the town board when it occurred and when it was resolved. And I'm very surprised, all right, that that was even brought up. That was 10 years ago. This board has work to do. That's not productive work. Now, I'm going to talk about why I'm here.
Bob, you gotta go closer.
So you have to waste your time and board time.
And I'm not running for political office. All right, first of all, my name's Bob Godlewski, 1046 Manus Drive. I read the article in the paper about the sewer issue, and I watched TV tonight. I'm here tonight. I want to expand on that issue. All right? First of all, let's establish the facts of what happened before this board came here. On 12/8/2021, the town adopted their budget. They changed their accounting practices for the tax cap, which they can do. The sad part is, for 10 years, we did it based on setting a tax for operation and maintenance. But when the lawmakers in Albany set up the law, they didn't put a clause in here that you, once you start one way, you can't switch to the other. And we're going to get into those facts. I disagree with it, but who am I? At that meeting, the finance director stated there would be no changes in the charges for residents, and that this would be reflected in the January 2022 bill. She went on to say that she worked on it with the assessor and the receiver of taxes. Not to worry, it'd be two different lines. On 12/29/21, the previous town board passed a new set of fees for water and sewer for 2022. It's a fact. Sad part is, they haven't assigned a resolution number to it, so I can't give you that number. So, what are the results of all these actions? On 1/3/22, the sewer bills went out for debt service, and they were wrong. There was no billing for water and sewer operation and maintenance. None. Because when I got my bill, I immediately went to last year's. The Gazette ran an article on January 8th, 2022. And it said over 100 people were affected. That was not accurate. It was really over 10,000 people, because that's how many units or residents there are in Water District 5, and they never saw a bill. Mrs. Greenwood stated in the Gazette article that the actual cost for things hasn't changed. And I believe it, all right? Councilwoman Herrera stated, quote, so there is no one really to answer the important questions for the residents. And I did a little research, and I happen to know that Councilmember Herrera and Cristo were on the Budget and Finance Committee last year. I would assume that if anybody could answer those questions, it would be them, because it would be unfair to the new board members to even have any of that knowledge. To sum things up, one, and I have to ask this question because I am a senior citizen and a taxpayer. Did the previous town board ask the financial director if a test run was made to make sure it would work as far as populating the fields on the water bill? I don't know that answer, but I'm glad to see there's two old board members up there and two in the audience. Two, it is not the assessor or the receiver of taxes' job to validate financial data. That input That's what the finance director gives them to put in. 3, and I had to go to the state controller's office to get this. The impact of changing the tax cap, the accounting procedure, in effect, gave the town more money to spend. And listen to me carefully. For 5 years, the average dollars under the tax cap averaged $45,000. For 2022, it will be over $700,000. And I have it here. I'm not making it up. Now, after that little shocker, 4, how do we know that the formula used by the finance director to calculate revenue for the water and sewer districts is correct? In other words, you budgeted on those lines, metered and under-metered, I might add, almost $2 million. How do we know the formula that was used is correct? I don't know, and nobody ever talked about it at the 12-8 meeting. Now, here's the one that I'm particularly fond of. 5. On 12-8, the finance director stated the actual cost had not changed. That is not true. On 12/29/21, there was a change made to the operation and maintenance cost for Water District 5, which is the biggest water district. In the budget, and you can go back to, I think it's page 4, it gives you a unit cost. It was $129.64. For some strange reason or another, on 12/29, it was raised to $157.89. I'll do the simple math for you. $28.25 times 10,000 units is how much? A rather large number. Now, on that note, why do I have to pay the same unit cost for water that somebody that has a swimming pool down the road and an in-ground sprinkler system? I don't know how that calculation was determined, okay? The residential properties in Rotterdam are not metered. I don't see the fairness, and I repeat, the fairness, because any home that's assessed over under $200,000 is going to pay more than they paid last year, quite a bit more. And most of those people, I'm going to venture to say, are seniors like me. All right? It's painful, but sometimes the facts have to come out. In conclusion, it is unfortunate that the previous board approved these changes is not in office to answer and solve these problems. That is, unless Councilmember Herrera and Cristo, who are on the Finance Committee, have those answers and they want to share them with us tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Godlewski.
I want to get in trouble.
Thank you for respecting the mask policy.
Got to do what you got to do sometimes.
You want to
Remember
walk it
that.
down there?
Lisa Rosen?
Hi, my name is Lisa Rosen. I live at 2000 Curry Road. Just so everybody knows, this is my first time at a town board meeting and hopefully the last. Obviously, I'm here because my taxes were raised $511.81. I have been told numerous stories about why I am receiving this extra tax. Is it a computer glitch? Is it a debt service? I don't know. Because I've called your office about 5 or 6 times. I've left numerous messages. I help pay all of your salaries. I don't understand why you couldn't give me the decency of a phone call. to tell me at least you were looking into it. If it is a debt service, I'd like a full explanation of what that means and why I have to pay it. Why was there no notice? A letter, something that said why we were getting it. When there was a town meeting on December 29th, I believe you have to have a public hearing in order to approve something like that. I might be wrong, but I have a very good friend who told me that that is something that should have happened. I also understood there was no agenda that night. I also think that that's something that's supposed to happen too. So the emergency board meeting that happened really shouldn't have, and those people stuck it to us and stuck it to you. And you, as the new board, should stand by the people of Rotterdam and do what's right. You didn't call me back, but Diane Martin did, numerous times. She tried to help. She was the only person. Whether she's for the tax hike or not, I at least give her respect for at least returning my phone call. Something I don't give to you. I was also told my other sewer bill that I get in January, which was $469.29, and we will all be receiving in January, I'm sure, is going up to $577.48. Difference of another $108.19. Also told that the water bill that comes in June is going from $75 to $157. So my increase is $702 for 1 year. I'm a single person. I came to Rotterdam as a first-time homeowner. If I knew all this, I would never have moved here. How do you expect someone like me to pay for this? Where am I supposed to get this money from? Also, I believe the federal government approved an infrastructure. Aren't you getting money for that? Isn't that what that should be used for? I want to know what you guys are going to do to help the people of the town of Rotterdam. And I want to know one more thing. I have to pay for a lot of stuff that really doesn't have anything to do with me. And I'll be honest, I'm sick of it. Okay, I'm one person. How much water, I work a full-time job, do you think I use, or sewage, do you think I use or have? Not this much. And why am I paying school taxes and I have no children? Answer me that. Thank you.
Thank you.
James, I think it's Rossi.
I thought it was a sign-in sheet for the meeting.
So you don't want to speak?
I'm all set.
Okay. Okay. And it looks like Melissa, I'm sorry, or I can't read the actual name. Can you Melissa? Or is that?
Maya McNulty?
There you go. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Maya McNulty. I'm a COVID long hauler, so it might take me a little while to get through my presentation because I suffer from tremors and brain fog. So would that be okay? I'm Maya McNulty. I reside at 2066 Orchard Park Drive in Miscellaneous, New York. Thank you for having me here tonight and having the ability to talk here to the public. Thank you for the opportunity to speak under the privilege of the floor. Again, my name is Maya McNulty and I reside in Schenectady County in the town of Niskayuna. I'm an author and a small business owner, and I battled coronavirus last March of 2020. I was one of the first young females impacted by the coronavirus, hospitalized for 69 days in a medically induced 30-day coma on a ventilator for 6 weeks. I'm a COVID long hauler, and I've had to learn how to walk, talk, eat, and read again. I'm still suffering from traumatic and long-term aftermaths of the over 200 sequelas of COVID. Currently at 22 months post-COVID, I am still undergoing vestibular therapy for cognitive and physical neuropathy but that's not why I'm here tonight. While laying in my hospital bed in my living room, I created a program called Long COVID. It's an online program to help survivors of COVID, and you can learn more at covidwellnessclinic.com. The COVID Wellness Program solves three main pressing problems facing our nation. Number one, small business compliance issues to better understand the laws of COVID. This program has reached hundreds of local businesses who are desperately searching for answers on how to better navigate the uncharted waters of COVID and manage staff, customers, their small businesses, and livelihood. Business owners also want to protect their families and encounter fewer headaches when it comes to diffusing disgruntled customer situations. The second thing that we do is we help survivors of COVID through cognitive recovery, pulmonary care, and strength training. And one of my favorites is being active in the research, science, and education surrounding long COVID and the life impact from debilitating disease. A business colleague of mine and my friend, Evan Christo, reached out to me for help. I thought it was wise on his part. Evan addressed many concerns affecting his business, his position as the Rotterdam board, and others when it comes to the laws of COVID in the public arena. First, I'd like to say congratulations to the new 2022 position. Your dedication and hard work as board members, I will assume that you are governed by strict bylaws to protect and serve Rotterdam community with respect, integrity, without negligence or causing harm, just like a doctor would take an oath to do no harm. And I would expect the same of you. You are governed by local laws and somewhat protected through board insurance and or bonds. However, if you willfully harm, intentionally knowing how you can spread the COVID by viral shedding, breathing, coughing, sneezing because of noncompliance of masks or PPE, personal protective equipment, vaccines, you could be held liable and negligent in your role as board members. There are OSHA laws to protect construction workers, hard hats, and toolbox checklists. I would be curious to learn what type of toolbox and checklist include in your protection of the people, the board, and the citizens of Rotterdam. Also, PESH, which is the Public Employee Safety and Health, CDC, FDA, Department of Health, Department of Labor, and now I was part of the Americans with Disability Act to pass the 31st anniversary of recognizing COVID as a debilitating disease that confirms long COVID. Indeed, it is a human resource risk, July of 2021. If you are found in violations of these if you are found in violation or intentionally spreading COVID while serving on the board of any entity, you will be fined and held accountable for noncompliance. No one is above the law of COVID, and COVID can greatly harm you, your family, your business. Currently, there are over 15 million people living with long COVID with no recovery timeline. My question is, what are you going to do to protect the people of Rotterdam and the town hall and small businesses? The Gazette printed an article on January 1st and January 6th in reference to a mask mandate at Rotterdam Town Hall. I bring forth these 6 questions to Mr. Joe Mastorani of the Health Committee. You may answer yes or no. Are you a doctor?
No.
Are you a scientist?
No.
Are you a survivor of COVID?
Yes.
Okay. Are you a long hauler?
No.
Okay. Are you an infectious disease specialist?
No.
Okay. And lastly, number 6. So far you've got 1 out of 6. Have you survived a pandemic? To back up your facts that masks don't work, does the 1918 Spanish flu prove that masks slow the spread until a vaccine was discovered to eradicate influenza?
Yes.
People were actually put in jail and fined for not wearing a mask or abiding by the governor's rules. Based on recent research from Johns Hopkins, you're familiar with Johns Hopkins, Yale, and Stanford, are you not? KN95 and N95 work up to 3 hours per use if worn and cleaned correctly. Are you aware of these scientific facts? I presented them for you in a packet that you can follow. Okay, so there's a remark that was made by Supervisor Collins. How far do we go to attack a resident about mask regulations? Well, I would rephrase that question and rephrase it like this. It is compliance with our board bylaws to avoid intentionally harming or neglecting our citizens of Rotterdam. The safety of our people matter first, because we don't know what we don't know about these unprecedented times. Frankly, it is beyond audacity and willingly and knowingly to be aware of an active 2-year pandemic and claim you're waiting for higher government to pipeline your action steps to prevent harm. Several consequences could play out in the meantime. Insurances can be voided, your board can face legal actions, be held accountable for lives you've never even encountered, or worse, viral shed on someone in this very space. Infect them and cause life-threatening medical long COVID. Are you prepared for that, Mr. Collins or Supervisor Collins? After surviving death because I died in March of 2020, I recall being in heaven. It is beautiful and it is peaceful, but I prefer to live here on earth. I will conclude with this. The world needs people to run and operate small businesses because of the pride and joy and love for the heartbeat of Rotterdam. We collectively and collaboratively can work together as a team to find solutions for the people of Rotterdam and not loopholes laced with excuses from the government and media. Given your positions as current board members, I will assume that you want to max out your humanity by using your energy to lift yourself up, your family, and the people around you. I will leave you with this quote. Theo Howard Truman said best. He said, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who want to come alive." Thank you for your time, respectfully submitted.
Yes, thank you.
George Jamack.
Let me know.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Those are one of my rebuttal questions for you. Is that okay?
Good evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. George J. Mack, 2203 Thew Street, Rotterdam, New York. And I'd like to start off with I'd like to preface my remarks with a quote from former Councilman Godlewski, who at one point years ago said, "Rotterdam's getting to be a nice place to leave rather than a nice place to live." And that's kind of, and I hope this new sheriff and deputies will right the ship of Rotterdam. I've seen it kind of flounder in the past. I live on a short, tapering, dead-end street. Last paving about 12 years ago. And that's my issue that I'm talking about, and the E-code, which it hasn't been in compliance with. And after 10 years of making the rounds down here, I've gotten nowhere. My house located, I have pictures, appropriate E-code documents, police reports, letters to the town board, the lawyer, highway department, code enforcement, and more. None of which has ever been refuted or addressed. The street design code, which is 249-17, states the minimum pavement width of each street shall be 30 feet. And they've redone the road once while I lived here, and shortly before, sometime before that, they've narrowed it, and it's tapered. So at the end, it's like 17 feet wide, and this is causing numerous problems. I got pictures, videos, all kinds of things. I can't even get people to look at it. These pictures or videos or anything over the 10-year period that I've been making these rounds. Jim Longo was the town highway superintendent at the time, Manicus was it, Hamilton Manicus, and I talked to Bob at one point. I talked to just several different people. They chased me around from enforcement code, the police department, the highway department, and Catherine McGrill. She's never answered any of my letters or anything either. So, the street, minimum street width on the street shall be 30 feet paved. Waivers to the road width standards upon recommendation from the highway superintendent and the town engineer or town designated engineer. The planning board may grant a waiver to the required road width standards with the following findings of fact. The road shall be constructed, shall not allow for on-street parking, period. This has been 10 years and it's getting crazy. If people would care to see some of the pictures, some of the documentation and stuff we're talking about, I'd be happy to show it. I have like 17 cars parked on, it's about a 100-yard long street, 17 cars on both sides. It's almost impossible to get up. The neighbors, I've tried to deal with them. They're kind of mean-spirited, and I've just gotten nowhere. And it goes on to show how there shall be a minimum garage space and sufficient paved site driveway space to accommodate a minimum of 2 vehicles on each lot. The simple, cheap, and easy solution to this is to put up signs. This is put up the sign, no parking on either side. And I have nobody, everybody's checking into it, but nobody's getting, in the past, I'm giving you this opportunity as a new regime here to try and set the boat straight. And I put in a FOIL request back in 2012. I have it with me to see when this waiver was put in. And Diane wrote me back and said it never was. So I've got that in also with me. So I'm hoping that we can resolve this issue at some point. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. J. Mack, we did meet with you this morning. We did meet with you this morning, and Jim Keith was here, and he was looking into the issue. We did meet with you this morning.
Yes.
And Jim Keith is looking into the issue. He's already started. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Melvin Mint?
Good evening. As you heard my name, I've been a resident of the town of Rotterdam for 55 plus years, and I'd just like to say a few little things. One, I'd like to welcome all of you to the new year. I wish you and everyone here a healthy and safe year and future years. Just a couple of points tonight. You've been subjected to some positive and some negative things this evening. I would like to make a couple of suggestions to you, though. You do have microphones in front of you. I would like some of you to project more because of the people that take the time to come here and spend the time to hear what you have to offer or to complain or do whatever they want at the microphone. The second thing is I would like to suggest that you do not go to executive session when you have many people here again and we have to sit for 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes to maybe re-look at your agenda, how you want to have executive sessions. I would appreciate if you would look at that. I have nothing here yet to complain about, to speak of so far, and those were just a few of the suggestions. Project, if the microphones do not work. I know you all can speak very loudly. I've heard most of you from time to time, some of you I have not, and we would appreciate it sitting out here and know what the hell is going on. Therefore, pardon my French, I thank you for taking the time. Have a pleasant evening, and I'm sure possibly we might meet again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Dubik?
Hi, good evening. He's going to speak and then I am on the same incident, or do you, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, thank you. Jerry's here on the same incident as mine, so do you want us to speak together or separate?
You can speak separately.
Okay, thank you. I have to use the phone here because that's my notes, if you don't mind.
Could you begin by giving us your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry, Deborah Doback at 248 Mariahville Road in Rotterdam. My husband's been a resident, he's not here tonight because he's working, but he's been a resident for 40 years at the same house. And I've been over 2 decades the same resident. I'm here because of a leash law incident that occurred. I have some pictures, I don't know if you can look at them, but there's injury to my grandson, myself. This also shows the property line that by the road is the cause of the problem. Okay, so do you want to see the pictures? Can I bring them up? Okay, thank you.
When it's all done, is it okay if I take copies of them, because I can take them, I have a color
You
printer?
can keep.
Okay, so then,
Yeah, but this is
start at
the-
that end, and then they can move them, then when I'll have them for last.
And then the
Okay.
clerk will keep them as a matter of record if you're.
Yeah.
This is the property. You see it's back to back.
Okay, so this is your home?
It's
Or your home is on this side? Your home is over here?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
and
this is
that's
your neighbor's
there.
house?
Yes.
And I'm assuming these boards here are your dividing property line?
Yes.
Okay.
These are the injury. I also got injured. And these are the dogs. You see how free they are?
Okay, so no leash on these dogs?
No fence, no nothing.
I'll defer to the clerk who knows what the leash law is. But, so you're roaming free and I'm assuming they attacked you and your grandson?
Yes,
Did you file a police report?
yes. We had to file a second one and a third incident.
How old is your grandson?
5. S1071 says purpose for Rotterdam. The purpose of this article shall be to preserve the public peace and good order in the town of Rotterdam and to promote the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the town by enforcing regulations and restrictions on the activities of dogs consistent with the rights and privileges of dog owners as well as the rights and privileges of other citizens of the town. That's in the Rotterdam leash law, if you look. Bear with me just a second, please. I spoke to the town clerk. I spoke to the police department. Ally, I spoke to her down there about this. E-code 360, if you go to search term 107, gentle restrictions, it says not more than 3 dogs are permitted. There are 5 there. Why are there 5 there? There could be 7, there could be more than that, because the woman there is a new owner, and there's boarders there that bring in their dogs. So we're not familiar with their dogs at all, and they're not familiar with us. Section D, at all times, confine the dog at all times, and if he's harbored, must be off of the residence's property. If they're not on a leash, they have to be confined. Now, the question I have is, what does the word confined mean? Okay, that's the question. According to the officers, the person I spoke to at the town clerk and Ally, they thought confinement, fence, or something. According to the animal control person who is working with me in this, states that it is just in the presence as the animal is there, by a command that the dogs, as long as they are there with their owner on the property, are fine to run their property with no leash or no fence. Every person on our block and across the blocks that don't have leashes have fences, or those who walk their dogs have leashes out of consideration and the safety of others. So because that the neighbors thought or believe that they don't have to have a leash or a fence, their dogs can run freely and even in packs. Because of this, bear with me. Because of the leash law in section 5D, they shall prevent any persons from being harmed. If the dog is creating a reasonable cause to harm or putting a person in harm or bodily injury, which has happened, my question to you is, what's the consequence? What happens? Okay, so we give them a ticket. They still do the same thing. They're out there with no leash, no fence, no nothing, no kennel, nothing. They feel they have a right. You get enough tickets, you go to the judge. The judge can enforce certain things, but this is a process. In the meantime, we're afraid to walk on our property after being there how many years? We have to carry either some form of as the animal control person said, some form of not a weapon like a gun or anything, but something. Why should I have to protect myself, especially being diagnosed disabled? How am I supposed to run? How are our children supposed to be outside? And my husband has a self-employed business where there are children that come in because he teaches piano. He's in fear of what's going to happen to them should these dogs run. The new person she had living there, and I love animals and dogs, came in with 2 pit bulls, and those are the ones that went after us, including her dog. Her dog was never aggressive and now has become aggressive because she's allowing other dogs to reside with them. And the more they're in the house and come out, they become aggressive. Because my grandson was hurt is not fair. The animal control person stated my hands are tied because basically the only thing she can do, she can't force a leash or force a fence. The law does not state that. How are you going to prevent this from happening any further? We're asking if you're going to keep the law that says in here, you don't have to have a leash, but to confine your animal, could you be more specific in determining what confine means? And what could be the consequence for this if there is an attack? If it was your child, your grandson, yourself, what would you do? I was traumatized by this. And the dogs ran up to my dog. Also, they did this a second and a third time to visitors on my property, my own family. The neighbors state that it is a friendly bark. It is not a friendly bark. I went to the neighbor when this happened, and she stated she would take care of it. She never did. She never did. Oh, we took it. Okay.
I mean, just take your time, but.
Okay. So that's why I tried to work with her over and over and over, and they're not working with us. Because we had to put in an incident report, they harassed us and were upset with us. We just need help with this to put in what does confine mean. if you're gonna put confined in this and no leash law for the dogs, they don't have to have a leash, then what is the consequence? I mean, do they have to put a leash on then, have a fence then, without going through the process to get to the judge? What's gonna happen the next time when we go outside and the dogs run up to us again? Because they can stand in their yard and use a command word. What if the dog doesn't come back on the command word and runs after us? So I would like you to add to, in the code, okay, to the word confine, to change it, or add to what happens if it's a violation. So we don't have to wait for the animal control, we don't have to go through to the judge. They are going to be ticketed, okay, because the animal control person did find that it was an issue. And we're going to sign the complaint because we've tried to work with them. And doing so, I don't know what will happen after that. But if you could just change this so we can, know what to do if something should happen, and for everybody as well. Thank you for listening.
Ms. Gomez, a couple of questions, I just want to make sure I have
Yes, yes.
information. You and your grandson were attacked separately, or the same incident?
Same incident. My daughter, twice when she came on, the dog came on to her on my this is on my property now.
Correct. And may I ask how many police reports you filed?
We filed 2 and an animal control, and she'll be at my home on Thursday.
Well,
And she confined their dogs for now in their house, but that doesn't mean it can be forever.
so again, for point of clarification, you would like us to clarify what to confine means and add some meat to the bone there.
Yeah.
And so there's
Thank
clear
you,
things.
thank you, yes.
And then the other thing that I would suggest to council is to investigate this and see if the attacks rise to the level of criminal charges. Because there are incidents where, I believe if certain parameters are met, and I don't know those parameters, that this may rise to the level of criminal charges. If I may ask our town clerk, Ms. Marco, do you know if these neighboring dogs are licensed or not?
Off the top of my head, I think that I had given her the information, but now she's saying more than, I don't know how many dogs. I'd have to really look them all up because I didn't know there was that many.
Wanted to make sure that you were in the loop on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The animal control person told them they had to license their dogs, so they weren't.
Okay. Good to know. And I can assure you, Ms. Marco is very diligent when it comes to the
Yes,
department.
yeah, I'm aware of her, yeah. Okay, thank you. Is that it?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Gerald Benson?
Hello, I just wanted to touch on what
Mr.
my
Benson, could you state your name and address?
my name is Gerald Benson. I live on 4-Lane Court. I just wanted to just touch on what my mother-in-law was speaking of. I was there when the Rotterdam police officer came the last time, and basically what we were told was if the dogs are on their property, they don't have to have a leash. You have a right to have a dog. Everyone has a right to have an animal. Fully understand that. My fiance's son was attacked. He's 5. That should not have happened. I understand the property line is very close. I understand you have a right to have a dog, but it seems like there's a gray area from having your dog roam in your backyard without a leash, and then as soon as it runs off and there's an incident that happens. How many incidents had to happen before you had to leash your dog in your own yard and put up a corridor to where they can't go into your neighbor's yard? One time to me is too many. Thank God there was no bites. As we know, it's not just a pit bull, it's an animal. We don't know how any animal is going to be. It could be a Doberman Pinscher, it could be a hot dog. Who knows? We don't know the dog and they don't know us. But my question is, the gray area with letting your dogs roam freely in your backyard is your right. But when they leave your yard into your neighbor's yard and there's an incident that happens, what do you guys plan to do to prevent that? Because like I said, one time is one time too many. There was no serious injury that occurred this time, but what happens next time this happens? there's a lot of liability that's held on the pet owner with this rule. And I guess we're just looking for clarification and you guys to look into how to change that. So the pet owner is held accountable, so their dog doesn't run off into someone else's yard, whether it be a friendly run, whether it be a chase. Again, I spoke with the dog owner, and he told us that the dog was put into the police academy for police training because he wanted to be a canine cop. I know a lot of canine cops. When your dog goes to the police academy, they don't run after people. So that's all I have to say. Just if you guys could, I don't know, the gray area between running off a quarter or something that happens so it doesn't happen again. Not just to her grandson, but to anyone else that lives in Rotterdam that has young children, even if they're visiting from another state or city. Thank you.
Thank you. Bud Vincent?
Hello, I'm Bud Vincent. I live on Oliver Avenue in Rotterdam. My plan was to be at the January 1st meeting to congratulate all of you on your election results. I'm sorry about my voice. I'm getting over a cold. Not COVID. I just got In particular, I want to congratulate my friend Jack Dodson, who I think will be a great asset to our town's government. I was unable to attend that meeting due to a death in my family. Christmas week. So I watched the swearing-in meeting on the Rotterdam website. The meeting didn't seem to go as smoothly as it could have. But over time, as you work together and as you get to know each other better, this is sure to improve. Hopefully, party politics doesn't enter into town politics in the future. As I watched the meeting, there was one resolution that was particularly disturbing to me. Resolution 25 names the town board as the Rotterdam Board of Health. My brother-in-law died a few days before Christmas of a non-COVID related illness. He had a heart attack. He was brought to Ellis Hospital by ambulance, but because of a spike in COVID cases in Albany, the intensive care units of all the local hospitals were filled, and he was transferred to an ICU in a burn unit at Westchester Medical Center. My sister's husband had to die in a hospital 2 hours away from his home, his 5 children, and his extended family. This virus affects everyone, even those who have not caught it. Over the holidays, both of my sons, my daughter-in-law, and 3 of my grandchildren contracted COVID. Fortunately, all of them were double vaccinated and no one had to be hospitalized. But their illness was scary, just the same. When you can't catch your breath, it scares you. When I saw that one of the board members sat through the meeting without wearing a mask, it both disturbed and angered me. How can this town board call itself a board of health when they won't even follow medical advice themselves? One of the duties of a board of health is to identify and contain spreadable viruses. Town board meetings is not the venue for debating your beliefs. Masks, vaccines, gun control, abortion, these are not town issues. These are national issues and state issues. The residents of this town are concerned with taxes, infrastructure issues, zone changes, and new construction. Take your protest outdoors where it belongs. Rotterdam might do well to revise Resolution 25 and seek a board of health who will take advice from medical professionals instead of TV talk show hosts. Going maskless is a slap in the face to all of us who have been affected by this terrible virus. This virus is real, it is serious, and it has killed millions of people worldwide. Even if that's not enough to convince you that the virus is real, it wouldn't hurt you to show respect for the people that you represent who know it's real because it has touched our lives. Show respect for us and for each other as you sit on this board. There's much work to be done here, and it's important for each of you to put your party politics aside and work to represent the residents of Rotterdam to the best of your ability. The policy for Town Hall has been that you must wear a mask to enter since the beginning of the pandemic. Molly, as town supervisor, it is incumbent upon you to ensure that this policy is followed by each of us. If that means ejecting a member of the board for violating that policy, then so be it. Let's stick to town issues and get something done. Thank you.
You want that to be part of the record? Thank you so much. Timothy King.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Keenan. I reside at 214 South Westcott Road. My first time at a town board meeting. My original intent here was to basically be negative and snarky and such, but as I sat here listening to these fine citizens of the town dealing with real personal issues, I'd rather not just waste the time doing that crap we could do on social media. With that said, first of all, I just want to thank all the town people here who pay their taxes and work their asses off for this country. I know the government will never do that for you, but I do. Ma'am, thank you for paying our school taxes. I have 3 kids in school. I know it's a pain in the ass, it's a burden and all that, but thank you. And the reason you have to pay taxes is because eventually my kids are going to be the future. They're going to be the doctors, the lawyers, healthcare providers, engineers, astronauts, or whatever. And they have to build society, and do that, they have to start with a public education, but thank you. And thank you for paying all the taxes. It's ridiculous what we paid today, but I don't think any of these politicians, any of these Democrats, Republicans, or wherever are ever going to thank you, but I do. I just want to end the meeting by saying, at the beginning of this meeting, we always say the Pledge of Allegiance, and everybody did stand up, but it sounded like half-assed to me. So do me a favor, does everybody stand up, including the board, take off your hats, and really say the Pledge of Allegiance to this country like we really mean it. Put the partisan bullshit aside, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance like we're really dedicated to this society, this country, this community. Anybody else going to join with me while I say it? Because I'll say it by myself if I have to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Schley.
Reach me or not. Hopefully you can hear me.
No, we cannot.
You can't hear me?
Now you can. If you go close.
Is that better?
Perfect.
Okay. So I live on 230 Autumn Run, and I wanted to make a couple comments about the new town board and moving forward. I want to talk about civility. I want to talk about decency towards each other. I've watched the town board meetings online and on YouTube, and I was appalled at some of the behavior by the past supervisor. I've seen Miss Marco be a punching bag for him. I've seen Mr. Lamora be a punching bag for him, and I thought it was inexcusable, it was mean, and it didn't need to happen. And I'm urging the new town board to have some decency. And I've also seen the past town board have disdain for members of the Rotterdam community that come here and speak. Should not happen. And there's too much incivility going on in the world today. I'd also like to address Ms. Miller-Herrera. I'm disappointed in you that you called out Miss Griffin at the last meeting. And it's okay if you do that. But I think to catch her in town hall afterwards and say it was nothing personal was wrong. It was personal. Now, my father always told me, he said, Ron, you're going to point a gun at someone, pull that trigger, be prepared what the consequences are. The same thing with your words. If you're going to pull the trigger, you better be prepared on the consequences. And hey, you want to call her out, that's cool. But to come up later and say it wasn't personal, that was dishonest and it was cowardly. Now, I've met a lot of these people recently, and I want to give an example to Jack Dotson. Jack's upbeat, he's positive, he's optimistic, and the little bit of time that I've known him, I've not seen him have a negative bone in his body, and I know he wants to roll his sleeves up and he wants to do the right thing. We got big issues in the town. This is an apartment complex haven. Failing infrastructure, roads and water. Lack of economic development is a huge, huge issue. And pot shops aren't going to cut it. There's landmines left by the last town supervisor or board. We've heard about them tonight. The Kmart deal, this disaster, it's going to happen. Massive tax hikes for businesses, increased taxes for Rotterdam homeowners, tax breaks for apartment complexes, and an incredible screw up on this sewer billing issue. A lot of work to be done, and I think it's time that people act more decently and civil towards each other and figure out how to get it done, because the Rotterdam people deserve that. And I've only been here since 2005, but I've put a lot into this town, and I think it is a cool place to live, but y'all aren't going to get it done by beating the hell out of each other. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Hess.
Good evening. Eric Hess, 1071 Floral Avenue. And Josh Cuomo.
I live on Skyline Drive. I'm the county legislator for Rotterdam, Princeton, Williamsburg, along with Eric. So we're just here together to tell you what we've been up to.
Came here to mainly to introduce ourselves to, most of you know us already. Want to introduce ourselves to the town of Rotterdam residents. There are 4 legislators that represent Rotterdam: Anthony Jasinski, Brian McGarry, Josh Cuomo, and myself. We've been collaborating and talking. One of the commitments I made running for office was to be engaged and involved and work with the town of Rotterdam, Princeton to Williamsburg, and offer to help in any way we can. We are aware of the water and sewer fees that have recently been brought up. We've discussed it amongst ourselves, along with Brian McGarry, Anthony Jasinski, and we're looking into ways to help. We haven't got any commitments yet. It was early on. Just had these conversations a few days ago, once we were made aware of this issue, both through social media and discussing it with you. So I appreciate your time. And again, if you guys need anything, most of you have our contact information already. Happy to discuss whatever issues there are and anything that we can do to help. Josh and I we talk quite often, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, like Eric said, we were right there with you guys trying to figure out some kind of way that we can help out. So we spoke with people of the county ledge. We're trying to figure out if there's any way that we can. We're also working on some outside the box ideas to try and help relieve some of the burden put on the taxpayers. We know this wasn't on you guys, and we just want to let you know that we're here supporting you, and we know that you have, you know, quite an uphill battle ahead of you. I think that's it. Mr. Mastriani, I'd just like to say, you know, you've taken a lot of punches here today, but I want you to know that a lot of us have your back and we support you. You know, you're not only standing up for the science, you know, for freedom and for the facts that are behind your position, you're also standing up for what you took an oath for and what we all took oaths for, and that's to defend and stand up for the Constitution. and that's what you're doing. Everyone has a right to do what they please. If you want to get vaccinated, if you don't want to get vaccinated, that's 100% up to you. If you want to wear a mask or not wear a mask, if it makes you feel more comfortable, I believe that's a personal choice and you should be able to do it. It is not. And actually, there's a gentleman in the back here who called the governor and asked if this mandate was real, and his or her press office was, very clearly stated that no, there is not a mandate right now. If you'd like to speak with him, if he is willing to, I don't know if you will, I want to put him on the spot right now, but he did call the governor's office and asked, and they said that there is no mandate. So maybe I'm wrong. It's totally possible, but from her mouth, from her press, there is one. But we took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and I just want to say that there's a lot of people that support you doing that, sir. So thank you very much.
I have something that I have to read. Board member Samantha Miller Herrera asked me to read this. It says, to Supervisor of Phyllis Horvath. This is a much overdue letter. When the senior center reopened, Phyllis was the person at the welcome desk. I have been coming to the center since I moved here 5 years ago, and Phyllis is the best ever. Whenever one group had a request or a problem, she saw to it that it was handled and rectified. Not only is Phyllis very competent, but she is also very pleasant, and it's hard to read this person's writing, but it looks like joy to work with. We miss her. I hope you know that you had a gem within your ranks. If we could vote Employee of the Year or get her a raise, we would stand behind both of these events. Thank you, Phyllis, for looking after us as the interim director of the Senior Center. Gail Hinchton and the small but mighty crafters.
That's it. I think Molly, is there anybody else in the room right now that wants to speak that didn't get to sign?
I'll say something real quick. Thank you. Good evening, Steve Signori, 108 Stacy Crest Drive. First off, this is what a unique perspective to be here, looking at you guys. And I think Bob Badalewski's rubbing off on me, so I don't know if that's a good But I just wanted to highlight some things. Ma'am, I apologize. I didn't catch your name because I didn't know what you were going to talk about. And then having talked about it, I wanted to come up here and say something myself. And Mr. Vincent, thank you very much, sir. You having spoken. Mr. Badalewski fortunately knew who you were, so I was able to get your name. And ma'am, I'm sorry, your name is?
Maya McNulty.
Okay, Miss McNulty, thank you. Just to let you know, this is off the United States Department of Labor OSHA website. Minimum fine, $9,753, and a maximum fine of $136,532 per violation for each one of you for a COVID violation. Maybe you might want to put that into perspective. The other thing I want to say is, many of you know what I do for a living. I work for the Public Defender's Office. Actually, I am the Public Defender. And one of the things I've learned throughout my career is it does not matter how rich you are or how poor you are or where you stand or what your status is in life, that the rules apply to everyone. And that's what I've dedicated my career to, is making sure that those in power or those with the strength do not abuse that power, and that the rules apply to everyone and those people are protected. So, and I was disturbed to see that we're walking in here and there's a box of masks sitting right there, and we've got a room of some people who aren't masked here. Now, these are the rules that pertain to this town. I don't care whether or not there's a government mandate that says you have to wear the masks. They are the responsibility. That is what it says in this town. So when you walk by here this evening and came in and saw the sign that says no entrance without a mask, you violated the town's code regarding that. So I don't care, who you are, and it's not to disparage anyone in particular. But it doesn't matter if you're on the board or not on this board. It applies to everyone equally. Now, the only thing I want to say is I don't want to be the code enforcement, your COVID code enforcement, when you guys on the board or this town get sued, because these are public meetings. And it's just going to be a matter of time before someone's going to look at our website and see what's going on here and wonder why, after everyone has made a stink about this, and brought it to the town board's attention that it was not dealt with, it was not remediated, or that nobody here who's in your new COVID enforcement officer did anything to stop it. So I haven't seen anybody this evening make an effort whatsoever to ask the people to please put on your mask or please leave, or to ask anyone in a higher authority here to please wear your mask as an example to everyone else here. So, Mr. Vincent, you got to tell me what it was from your perspective, and now I'm talking to you what it's like from a legal perspective. So you guys can decide what you want to do going forward, but I think you might want to take a look at what's going to happen to you from a future perspective if you let it go on any further.
Molly has to read. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? No one else wants to speak? Okay, I do have one, the person who wrote this is here tonight.
I can't hear you.
The person who wrote this is here tonight, but I'm assuming you would prefer me to read it? Okay.
I prefer Diane to read it, but.
She had asked me, but
Okay.
she's reading it.
I can hear her.
Dear Supervisor Collins, Deputy Supervisor Dodson, and the Rotterdam Town Board, I wanted to take a moment to show my gratitude for allowing me to serve you and the town of Rotterdam over the past 18 months. I was hired during the pandemic in an effort to assist in the ever-changing landscape of executive orders and needs to keep our residents and employees safe. I hope that I have made an impact that will help residents move forward. I say this because I am scheduled to be publicly terminated tonight. I am not sure why my position as paralegal government liaison is being outsourced, but I can say that it is unlikely that Mr. Tingley's law firm will be able to provide the level of service I, along with the former town attorney, Kate McGraw, provided. During my time here, I assisted the Department of Public Works investigate code violations. I coordinated the resolution of IT issues for the various departments. I came in on holidays to fix door locks. I worked days, nights, and weekends to assist with the large volume FOIL requests brought by the Muck Rock organization. I ensured paychecks were mailed out when entire departments were quarantined. But I don't submit this looking for sympathy. I simply submit this statement to show how working together is part of working in local government. What I have seen in the months I have been here is a lack of cooperation and a toxic work culture, and it is no surprise that my position is going away. I speak of the retaliation I have seen for what I can only describe as generational trauma that employees impose on the next generation of employees because they were forced to endure it. As someone with professional experience as a victim's advocate, I want to be clear that I think many of your decisions are being pursued because of vendettas. Employees with history of abuse behavior are now being rewarded. Everyone on your list for termination tonight was someone that held Town Clerk Diane Markle and employees in their departments accountable for errors and mismanagement. I think it is important to note that not included in tonight's terminations, I think it is important to note that not included in tonight's terminations, but conveniently left out of the organizational meeting is Phyllis Horvath, another employee who worked tirelessly to make sure the senior center was open. She spent the last few months looking for records in the town clerk's office. She made sure, as the part-time floater, that every department had what it needed. The unchecked ability to bully and intimidate people is a trait I have never encountered in another workplace. The new administration endorses this type of behavior. In my case, they wandered the building on December 27th and 28th before taking office firing people. And when they took office on January 1st, 2022, they failed to follow the legal requirements to terminate employees. I am not sure if tonight's resolution is meant to humiliate me, but is clearly an attempt to bully and intimidate me. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that as the only Asian American employee and one of the only non-Caucasian employees, I am being targeted. Mr. Mastriani's Facebook page is covered in anti-Chinese sentiment, and it seems clear that this administration has no intention to promote a diverse workforce. I want to thank all of the people who reached out to me to see if I was okay, and if I needed anything after they saw what, let me start again. I want to thank all of the people who reached out to me to see if I was okay and if I needed anything after they saw that the new supervisor was going to publicly shame me tonight. But I will not be shamed. I have never received a counseling or discipline. I have the full support of my union as CSEA continues to battle the outsourcing of union jobs to private jobs statewide. I have never done anything less than my best in this position. I hope that this board will find peace, and I want you to know that as a Christian, I forgive you. I hope you learn from your mistakes and are able to move the town in a good direction. Sincerely, Sharon Hoy Thomas. Okay, and is there anyone else for privilege of the floor? Okay. Now going to resolution. Our first item is resolution. Can everybody hear me? Our first resolution, our first item is resolution 54 of the year 2022. Will the clerk read?
A resolution to appoint members of the Ethics Board.
I'll make that.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Council Member Dodson.
I'll second it.
Second by Council Member Mastriani. On the question?
Madam Supervisor, on the question, I would just note that Board Member Christo and I requested backup on this. We have not been provided with any information about these members. While I have some knowledge of Ms. Cleveland and have only heard lovely things about her, I don't know much, if anything, about Mr. Grandstaff. And while Ms. Griffin is an employee of the town, I have never been provided with a copy of her resume or qualifications to be a member of the Ethics Board.
I was under no, didn't have any knowledge that any resume should be sent. We followed what the guidelines were by the law, and those being that you had to have 2 town residents and 1 employee or officer of the town. That's why we chose those 3 people. If you would like me to reach out to them and have them send you a resume, I will be happy to do so.
In that case, it might be appropriate to table the motion until you're able to circulate that information.
I would question what exactly, are you looking for some kind of requirement that you feel someone on this board should have?
No, I just feel we should have an opportunity to understand why you feel that they are appropriate members of the board and have nominated them to be such.
No, you can make a motion.
There's already a motion on the table.
Okay. Well, in that case, what?
Call the roll.
Okay.
Should I have a
Is
second?
there any other discussion?
I didn't make a motion.
No?
No, Mr. Mastriani was a second.
We're good.
Okay.
Call the roll.
Well, I didn't hear, she made the motion.
I did not make a motion.
Oh, I thought you said make no.
No, I did not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
did not.
I thought you did. Okay, so are we calling for the vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Christo?
I'd like to explain my vote. I do concur with Ms. Miller-Herrera as far as lack of information, although I do have enough confidence in Ms. Yvonne Cleveland, who I do know well, and I believe she's fair and honorable, and for her to participate in this, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to vote yes.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera? Without any information provided, I know information about Ms. Cleveland because she previously ran for supervisor and her credentials were put forward in that forum, but I don't know anything about the other 2's credentials to be on the ethics board, so I'm going to vote no. Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no, resolution passes.
The next item is resolution number, sorry. Resolution number 56 of the year 2022.
Right. Oh, yeah, right, 56. So we have to go, is it the resolution to authorize release retainage to AMZ?
No, we had to,
We put those.
Wait.
oh, I'm sorry, 55. I'm
Right.
sorry.
So 55, correct? Okay. A resolution to authorize a change order number 1 for welfare chlorinization with Brunswick Electric, Inc.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Christel on the question. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera? Yes. Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins? 5 yes.
The-
Could you, on that one, was it Evan Christo made the motion? Who seconded it?
Dodson made the motion, I seconded.
Oh, yeah, I had it. All right, hang on. Jack Dodson and Evan Christo, thank you. So now 56 is going to be the one, a resolution to authorize change order number 1
Yes.
for welfare chlorinization with AMZ Construction, Inc.
I'll move.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Costello, seconded by Councilmember Mastriani. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion passes. Resolution number 57.
Okay, so that's going to be the one, a resolution to authorize retainage for release of retainage to AMZ Construction, Inc.
I'll move.
Okay. Mr. Costello.
And who was that?
Mr. Christian.
Mr. Costello.
Was first?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we said it together. We'll take Mr. Dodson.
Okay.
On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes, resolution passes.
Resolution number, the next resolution is Resolution 58.
A resolution to amend resolution number 21 of the year 2022.
And, any discussion? Do I have,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Costello. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. On the question?
Just for the record, Supervisor Collins, we did amend that motion. We added Matt Lupi as Assistant Director of Public Works with his $3,500 annual stipend to be reinstated. Dana Osta as Social Media Administrator at an annual stipend of $2,000. And Phyllis Horvath as part-time clerk, as needed if needed, at $19 an hour. So that's the complete motion.
And that was already voted on.
Okay.
We got to vote on the resolution.
So, I have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mastriani? Or Mrs. Miller Rivera? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
No.
So 1 no, 4 yes, it passes.
Okay. Next resolution is resolution number 59.
A resolution to amend resolution number 324 of the year 2021.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second? I'll second the motion. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion passes. Next resolution is resolution number 60.
We already did that one.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So I'll go to 61
I
now.
think it's getting past my bedtime. All right, resolution number 61.
A resolution authorize execution of a contract for labor relations attorney and consultants.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Mastriani. On the question, call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Although I had concerns, I was informed by my colleagues here that a proposal was put out, and the previous labor law firm also made a proposal, and they chose one of the two, so I'm going to vote yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
To explain my vote, I'm concerned that we're lumping in labor relations with contract negotiations, which is what we previously employed outside counsel for. This makes our cost for legal services increase more than I had anticipated. However, I'm willing to give this a shot to see if it works. I'm concerned about how we've been dealing with labor relations, and I want to make sure that this helps with at least maybe smooth out the transition that started off a little bumpy. So I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion passes. The next resolution is resolution number 62.
A resolution accepting the town board of the town of Rotterdam meeting minutes for the December 8th, 2021 town board meeting.
Do I have, go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Councilmember Dodson. Do I
I'll
have-
second.
Second by Councilmember Christo. On the question, Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Next resolution is resolution number 63.
A resolution to accept revenue for the town clerk's office for December of 2021.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move. I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Christo, seconded by Councilmember Mastriani. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes, resolution passes.
Resolution number 64.
A resolution to make budgetary transfers for the 2022 final budget.
Do I have?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Mastriani. Anything on the question? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
And Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution number 65, the year 2022.
A resolution to enter into an agreement with Policy Sebesta to financial consulting services.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilmember Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Mastriani. Anything on the question?
Yes, Madam Supervisor, have we asked this contractor to indemnify us against claims for discrimination and racial bias based on the concerns in the investigation in other municipalities where he worked previously? I know the Gazette covered that story pretty extensively in the town of Miscuna. Paid out over $150,000 just for investigating the claims that were made by employees there.
I could speak to that.
About whether he's going to indemnify and hold harmless in the contract?
Well, about, what actually happened.
I don't want to get into, what actually happened. I certainly don't want to disparage him. I don't know him, and if he's going to provide these services, that's great. I just want to make sure that if something goes wrong, that we don't have to pay out claims because of it. So I'm just wondering whether we've asked him to have insurance that covers any claims for that.
I can't foresee any circumstance where what you described would occur, that something would go wrong.
So we have not asked him.
Mr. Sebesta was a victim of a terrible circumstance. It was in close proximity to the George Floyd riots. And he had to step down from his position without a fair shake. I don't see how that would put Rotterdam in any challenging circumstance at all. I don't know what you're implying as far as
I'm just asking that we have coverage. Our town can't afford to have
coverage from what?
Just insurance coverage if there are claims. I don't want to have to pay out $150,000 for investigations. I don't want to have to pay out claims if something happens. Knowing that there's a history puts us at risk and makes us liable for it. I don't think we should carry that liability coverage. I think he should. If he's going to provide the service. It's only for 3 months. I don't think that would be a difficult ask in a contract.
I can't foresee what kind of liability what sort of circumstance would we be liable for. I mean,
if an employee makes a claim, if a member of the public makes a claim, right, as a contractor he could carry the insurance, but he's still subject to our town policies under our policies for harassment, discrimination, workplace violence. All of those apply to contractors. So if we haven't asked, we haven't asked. I'm just wondering if we did, and if it's something we want to do.
I asked about, specifically what had happened,
Again, with the interest of not disparaging or...
mentioning harassment or, workplace, it's disparagement enough, I think.
I'm just trying to cover our butts.
And I would like to add to that as well. We're not here to evaluate the man's innocence, but because there is a documented payout, I would like to think that as council and our supervisor enter into an agreement with this contractor, that you would consider him. We have, anytime we have an independent contractor, we always do request insurance, correct, Ms. Miller? So may I ask that when you do enter into an agreement with him, that you ask for this indemnification? I think it's a very fair request.
Yeah.
So it just covers us. and it covers liability for the town.
And that's fine.
And I think it can be covered by an umbrella policy
Yes.
if he has one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So the answer to your question, well, the answer to your first question was no, the answer to your second question is yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, is there anything else? Please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Christo?
Based on the fact that our supervisor and our council have committed to making sure that we are indemnified, I vote yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
For the same reasons, yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
I spoke to Mr. Sebesta. He's a 32-year employee of the town of Niskayuna. He stayed on to work past his retirement date during the beginning of the COVID epidemic. He was a loyal employee working for many administrations very competently. I think we're very lucky to have him come in an interim basis to help us out. When the outrage that struck the nation after the murder of George Floyd, he got roped into it unfairly and thrown under the bus. I certainly would not appoint anybody who was racist or had any kind of checkered past. So I enthusiastically vote yes, and seek to protect his reputation and not let his reputation be disparaged in any way at this forum.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes, resolution passes.
That concludes our resolution for the evening. We'll now move into committee reports. Does anybody have any committee reports?
I'd like to speak, Supervisor, on behalf of the Health Committee, if I can, and to some of the comments made tonight. Mrs. McNulty and Mr. Vincent, thank you for speaking. It's a lot easier not to come and not to speak, and you deserve a lot of credit and appreciation for coming. I want you guys to know, and I want everybody in the public to know, that I wouldn't come here and not wear a mask if I felt that it had any negative impact on anybody. Okay? We are living in very strange times, and the people that voted for me are very frustrated with the progression of mandates and rules and laws that aren't doing anything to stem this pandemic that we're in. It's a very strange time that we're in, and it's something that I think not everybody understands. But there's a reason that law comes from the legislature and doesn't come from the executive branch. It's because in having that system the way that our founding fathers designed it.
What's this got to do with town politics? You're talking national. I mean, stop it. Just stop it.
Okay, well, what I'd like to do, I'd like to extend an invitation to both of you and to the entire community to build a conversation here.
I'd love to talk to you, but not here. It doesn't belong here.
That's fine. I think the conversation needs to happen, and it isn't about being right or wrong. I think that our politics are so divisive nationwide, and that affects our community, and not having the conversation is part of the problem.
What has it got to do with town politics?
Some of
I want to know.
Some of us believe that masks are necessary.
Take it up with the state and with the feds, not here. This is for town.
I think
I want to know about taxes. I want to know about infrastructure.
Mr. Vincent, you had an opportunity to speak.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think everybody has the right to their own opinion, but when things start to roll out of control, I think we have to bring it back. Not that I disagree with you, Mr. Vincent. I've known you for most of my life, since I was a teenager. I understand where you're coming from. And Mr. Mastriani, I don't want to take anything away from you, but maybe this should be done at a different time.
I'd like to speak under miscellaneous, okay?
Okay,
And it is under this topic.
Wait a second. We're still in the committee meeting. Just
Okay,
give me 1 second.
I'll wait.
Okay. Is there anything else for under committees? Okay, and now we'll move into miscellaneous. Mr. Congressman, I'm upgrading you. Council member,
I don't know if that's an upgrade. I don't know if that's an upgrade or a curse.
by 10 o'clock, one of you will be a president. I don't know who I'm going to but one of you. Okay.
First of all, I want to thank both our county legislators, Mr. Hess and Mr. Cuomo. I've had the privilege of knowing you both for a long time, and I have full confidence that you do a good job. Now let's go back to the discussion about masks. Mr. Mastriani and I had a very spirited dialogue, which I think, Mr. Cuomo, you kind of overheard some of it, okay? We had a very, very fair and honest conversation. Here's my standpoint, okay? I'm not comfortable wearing this mask. I have trouble breathing in this mask. But, and you know what? If there are certain issues about COVID, I might be standing next to Mr. Mastriani, as you said, Mr. Vincent, outside, okay? As an elected government official, my point is this. We have now a fiduciary responsibility to the coffers of this town. And as an elected official, I feel it is very wrong to jeopardize OSHA. Forget about mandates, non-mandates, executive orders, non-executive orders. There is policies that are in place for public buildings, for government officials. They exist. The fines are real, okay? So to make a political statement, which my colleague here has said, it is a political statement, perhaps he should heed to what Mr. Vincent said, and this is not the time or the place, okay? I will wear this mask, as you said, Mr. Vincent, out of respect. I have a colleague on the other side of the dais who has 4 small children at home, 2 are still in diapers, and her second child actually had COVID, and so she knows what it's like. I've known Ms. McNulty for many years, pre and post-COVID. Her story is gut-wrenching. Mr. Vincent, I did not know your story, and I apologize, and I'm very sorry for your loss, because I've lost dear friends to this thing, okay? This disease is real. The solution has been politicized, but there's a time and a place. In this building, I will abide by whatever safety and health regulations exist that will protect the coffers of this town, okay? I don't care about what's right or what's wrong when it comes to the rules to protect the employees under PESH and under OSHA, okay? As I said, I have mixed feelings about these masks. That's my personal opinion. This is not a dais for personal opinions. This is a dais to first protect and serve. It's the motto in the police department, but part of our oath is to protect and serve. We are empowered with protecting and serving our workforce, and we discuss this. And we've agreed to meet and discuss this further. So just because there's spirited debate up here doesn't mean that we are not civil. It doesn't mean that we cannot, disagree with things, okay? But in my position is our first and foremost duty is to protect the workforce and to protect the treasury and the coffers of this town, and therefore I will wear a mask in this public building. And that's just my position.
And I respect Mr. Christo's position. I see it differently, based on not believing that masks are safe or efficacious, either in combating coronavirus particles or stemming this pandemic. But I took an oath on the Constitution, and the Constitution says that laws come from the legislature. The legislature is not acting in this circumstance, and for people on a dais 20 feet apart from anybody else, it's all theater, and I'm not going to take part in that theater. And there's a lot of misinformation that's going on out there. There are things that we can be doing that we aren't doing to effectively stop the spread of germs in town hall. I got a couple hands, and I don't want to not let you guys.
I really, it's not that I don't want to hear anybody's opinion. Your opinions are all important to me, okay? But we're kind of going off in a different direction as far as we can. I'm sure all of us could sit here and debate COVID and many other things that do not pertain to town business, and that's what we're here to do. So is there anything else, is there any other council member that wishes to speak under miscellaneous?
Yes. Mr. Dotson would like to speak.
heard a lot of conversations about a lot of things here tonight. I do not want to leave this meeting without some sort of explanation to property owners in sewer district number 2, extension number 1. We had many property owners speak on it tonight. Mrs. Lisa Rosen is no longer here. I was hoping to have the opportunity to tell her that, yes, she did call in several times. And in fact, we've logged all our calls that came into Town Hall. Mrs. Rosen did call on January 4th. We took her information, including her phone number. She called in and she did state clearly tonight, why was there no notice? Give me an explanation. How do you expect us to pay for this? Okay, so we are sincere in cataloging all the information and the calls that we receive from our public for that area. There's roughly about 150 properties there in question. We understand the pain. Getting a tax bill that's 900% or more, unexpected. Many people probably cannot pay that bill. Many people don't understand when people receive bills in the mail like that, how they're going to manage it. So we do understand, okay, what is going on here relative to this assessment that was made to this tiny district for roughly $144,000 in debt service, and it was assigned solely to this extension number 1 district. As was indicated tonight from our county legislator, we did reach out to them. They've looked and talked about how this may be rectified. I'm not going to speak for Molly, but I know Supervisor Collins, excuse me, not going to speak on her behalf, and I know she also reached out to the county to determine, hey, is there any way we can mitigate this? Basically what we're getting back at this point in time is this assessment roll went out. We can point fingers all day long about how it happened, why it happened. I've indicated on the record today in our interview with the news that the intent that was to break out operation and maintenance and debt service, it was indeed a sincere intent. In the many municipalities I work with, we do separate debt service from operation and maintenance, and it should indeed be done here. This mistake was a lot more than just that. And I'm not going to get into the details of how it happened, but it did happen. And I use the analogy today, once the cake is baked and it's served, and someone starts tasting the bittersweet chocolate that's in there, no one likes it. We don't like it, we know you don't like it. And I'm not going to stay up here and say that we can just wave a magic wand and you will no longer have this debt service, because no one's convinced us at this point in time that we can change the situation that we're in. We're going to continue to do whatever we can do to help you out here. I am advocating on behalf of the board that indeed you pay your taxes. The consequences of paying your taxes exceed this cost. So unless we can come up with a solution for you in the next 60 to 90 days, my recommendation is to pay your taxes. In the end, this situation will be resolved. If you've overpaid any taxes, you indeed will receive a credit. But please don't put you in a situation where by not paying your taxes, the situation gets worse. And further to that, we know all the properties that received this tax for debt assessments. It'll be my recommendation that letters go out to you individually, basically explain this situation. There's been some pretty good effort this week put into why again this happened, who it happened to, and again we will provide some information in there relative to please pay, and then how we're going to rectify this for what I would consider is next year's tax roll, because at this point in time I believe that is the only way this is going to get corrected. Thank you.
I have one question based on what Mr. Dodson said. It's for council. Is there a legal mechanism where we can at least perhaps waive the interest and penalty?
No,
There's
there's no waiver of interest and penalty on tax payments.
Councilmember Christo, that's what I called today. I called up the county and said, I wanted to extend it so that the residents would have at least until March 15th, thinking, save a little every month and it might help. But they told me once a tax levy is issued, that's it. And so I talked to the real property manager and 2 different people in the county, and unfortunately, we can't.
And there's no, if we find that there's an error, there's no way of rebuilding, or you just have to bite the bullet.
I was also,
So I guess at the end of the day, let's hope we have an answer, because if a resident overpaid this year, but they know they're getting a credit by the time they have to pay that bill, that would be great. So let's all work together to make sure that we can find such a solution and hopefully ease this burden, because everybody got some sticker shock. I've gotten many phone calls, but I want to use our energy to rectify the problem. Okay, that's my suggestion.
Very good. Okay, anybody else?
Can I say just a couple things? I'll be real quick because I know we all want to go home, but this has been a fast-moving issue, this sewer issue, and we're doing our best to get our arms around it, and we are working on a solution, and it will come in time, and we appreciate your patience in that. And as far as masks go, I commit that this is going to be a continuing conversation, not just masks, but all COVID protocols. We aren't emphasizing early treatment enough, and there are a lot of things that we can be doing to. Okay.
Sign says no mask.
Go ahead.
No, except for Joe Max.
That's right here.
That's what it says.
Go.
I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude. I understand everybody has their opinion.
And have the comments stop from up there as well.
Yes, that's exactly what I plan to do.
Steve, we always, on the other side, we always represented, we always respected, you advisors to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. I'll second Mr. Christou's.
I can't hear. Who made the motion?
I made the motion to adjourn.
I
second it.
And Samantha, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.